your marriage after 53 years to Mrs. Uppington. But
I
mean, what's at the root of that? We don't understand each other? Is that the problem?
They're so weird, Jim.
Okay, Gene's loading up here, man. Just keep going. It's like digging your own pot there, digging your hole.
Just hear me out for a second, then you can harpoon me. They go potty in groups of 6, 8, 10, 12. It's not uncommon for a woman to say, I'm going potty. Anyone want to come along? It's a social event.
Men do scratch their head at that one.
Yeah, I mean...
It's a social event.
They talk and talk and talk. And women, men like sort of the USA Today version. Sort of, because most of us as men like to be problem solvers.
Yes.
And my plea to women, because they tell me my husband doesn't talk. Your husband will talk, but you have to know how to approach this dude, okay? If this is late-breaking news for you, if you're driving, hang on to the wheel. Us men, across the board. Now, let me give you a disclaimer. About 15% of marriages are not represented in what I'm about to tell you. But we men, across the board, hate your questions. We don't like the Y word. We get defensive. If you want your husband to talk to you, trust me on this. Honey, could I ask your opinion about something? There's not a man in this building that doesn't have an opinion. I'm not saying it's a good opinion or a right opinion. I'm just saying we got an opinion.
That's good.
Now, that's a good way to stage it. All right, Gene, this is the dangerous part. You have a story from our marriage that illustrates the differences between men and women. I seem to remember it had something to do with your birthday. This is going to be painful. Go ahead. Hit me.
Well, no, there was one year that I think we had spent more money than we usually do. And I remember telling you, Jim, I don't want you to buy me a gift for my birthday.
Now, can I translate that?
Yes.
I'm good. We don't need to do anything for your birthday.
Yes.
Liar.
Well, that's the problem. I said, please don't buy me a gift.
Yeah.
So my birthday comes.
This is bad. I'm so sorry. Do you forgive me?
Yes, I do forgive you. And they didn't do anything.
They being me and the boys.
Right. There was no burnt breakfast in bed from the boys, and there were no handmade cards from the boys. Jim heard me telling him, he thought I was saying don't do anything.
Well, what I heard was, you got the day off.
You're bringing up guilt feelings of me, and I always say women are the guilt gatherers of life, but your story, Gene, painfully reminds me, the guy that's written a lot of books on marriage and family, I had to take Lauren, our youngest daughter, to the pediatric dentist. He was about 3'6" tall, little guy. I said, honey, I'm late. I got to get there. Tell me, I got to know where I'm going. She said, you can't miss it. You can't miss it. Now listen to this. She said, there's flowers in the front of the building, but that's not the entrance. You got to go around the side entrance. You can't miss it. Now, Tucson, Arizona, where I live, is about a million people in the metropolitan area. Okay, then I'll go now and I'll start looking for flowers. Just give me the address, give me the cross streets. But honest to Pete, that was her response.
You can't miss it. Did you get lost?
No, I finally got the address out of her, but I mean,
I think I could have found it.
That's the point. This is the perfect setup for the next question, which I wanted to ask. You say true intimacy in marriage starts with recognizing each other's needs. So let's dig into it. First, for us husbands, identify the basic needs of women and what they are. And Gene, you're going to hold them accountable, right?
Absolutely.
You're the one at the table representing women.
Well, yeah.
So you tell if he's right on or not.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Dr. Lehman, what are these needs that women have?
Well, again, and just notice, I think God was the original humorist when he came up with this one, the two shall become one, because we're so different.
Yes.
Number one for women, I think, is affection. It's huge in a woman's life. Number two is communication. Now, every man listening, what are we basically, as men, not great at? Number one is affection. I know some of you are world-class grabbers, but that's not affection, okay? So it's affection, communication, commitment to the family. That's basically what it is for women. And men are completely different. They want to feel needed, wanted, and
Respected, appreciated.
yeah, and fulfilled, and that includes the S word,
Yeah.
sexual. They want that wife to pursue that chubby body that's gained 14 pounds since you walked down the aisle, and that's just the reality. Of don't write me a nasty letter. That's God's plan. That's how He made us. Very different.
Well, Gene, let's get to another story. I don't know why we've done this, but you identify closely with the need for good communication, like Kevin's talking about. Explain that need where you and I have, maybe played that out in our marriage. Communication.
Well, yes. I was a night person. A little less of one now, but you are, and I always
Totally
have been
morning.
a morning person.
Totally.
And we would go to bed, and I am ready to upload all the data that has happened in my day. And,
Nails on a
blah, 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 blah,
chalkboard.
blah, 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 and this and that, and tell me about my
Oh, my
girlfriends
goodness,
and my family.
please, no,
and my,
no.
And
I wanna go to
that's
sleep.
when I want to talk about resolve like our deep relational issues. It's when, the moment we put our heads on the pillows, and then later with kids, that's when I want to talk about the problems with the kids. Well, and Jim, I mean, you finally had to
Gently say. Gene, when my head is hitting the pillow, I'm not totally with you. I mean, I go to sleep in like 3 minutes. It's amazing.
He does have some political leanings. That's very good, Jim.
yes.
Right. But it did take a while. That was probably way down the road of our
that
marriage
was-
when I finally had the courage to say, I can't really hang with you here.
Well, but and I just in the last week, I mean, I really had to practice this. I wanted to talk to you about probably one of our sons,
Probably.
and I stopped myself because it's bedtime. And
God bless
and
you.
I know, and also you told me that if you start problem solving at night at bedtime, then he can't go to sleep.
I can't unplug once I get into it.
And so, I mean, we had to talk about that, but you also thought,
Yeah. Okay, so the other thing, early in our marriage, we're probably year number 3. I can remember specifically a moment where we're brushing our teeth in the morning together, and I'm chipper as can be because it's morning. This is the time God intended for man and woman to speak. I mean, this is it. This is all good. We're supercharged. I'm ready to take on the day for the Lord. And I noticed Jean's not responding to me. And I thought for a long time, I thought, why is she mad at me? I mean, I'm serious. How you doing? You sleep well? Nothing. Not even a grunt. And I thought, she's so mad at me, she won't even respond to me.
Well, you married a very pretty woman, as did I. But I'll tell you, Mrs. Uppington in the morning, to put it bluntly, she's got issues. I mean, she does. And she's got this stuff she puts on her face. I don't know what it's called, but it looks like poppy seed dressing or something. But she puts it on her face, and it takes a while for the beauty to come forth. But I always kid people. I say, we're night and day different. I'm like Jim. I go to bed early. And now that I'm older, I mean, I'm drooling at 8:30. And she says...
You can make it to 8:30?
Yeah. She says, you can't go to bed, but... I said, well, watch me. But I'm telling you, she's half raccoon. She's up till 2 o'clock reading. Books are some of her best friends. And I told John last night, we were visiting, and I said, about 2 o'clock, she goes out and tips over the garbage in the neighborhood and then comes back to bed. But we're night and day different. I'm up early with a happy face. She doesn't like that.
So you need to talk about those things, though. And I so appreciate Jean, working to figure that out, that
You
she
learn
can't
it.
bring up a big
it's
problem.
It's a learning process.
Yeah.
Just like forgiveness is a learning process.
Yeah,
Oh, my
and it's not a
goodness.
personal thing. If Jim falls asleep, it's not personal
Right.
to Gene. It's just something that is, right? So
Right.
This is Focus on the Family, and we are enjoying a conversation today with Dr. Kevin Lehman. And I think we're getting into some of the content, Jim, of his book, The Intimate Connection, Secrets
we're
to
getting
a
there.
Lifelong Romance. We want to encourage you to get your copy at focusonthefamily.com/broadcast or call 800, the letter A and the word family.
Because of the humor of it all, let's quickly restate the 3 things that men need to know about wives What are the core things they need? Say them again.
Yeah. As a man, just a reminder, this is simple as ABC. Affection, okay? And affection takes all different forms. It's that little touch. It's that single rose. It's that little note you wrote and put a stamp on it. Put it in the mail. It's all those it's that email that says, I can't wait to get home. And when you walk in the door, part of affection is, honey, what can I do to help? If you got little ankle biters around, I'm telling you, she sees you as the best reliever in the National League coming to help her. And when you sit down and do nothing, the anger can build and
that's
you're
a good
getting in
point.
trouble. So again, affection, communication, and that means you have to take time to do that. And then commitment to the family, being a good dad. She purrs like a kitten when you're a good dad, believe me.
Okay, now the opposite again, just to recap. What wives need to understand about helping the needs of her husband.
Yeah, ladies, I know you're busy, but you got to speak well of him, especially in front of other people. You have to understand he needs to be wanted and needed by you. That's physically and emotionally, and that leads to fulfillment. That's huge for men. Men are different.
No, that's really good. You have this analogy of the tea kettle to talk about emotions. Explain the tea kettle analogy.
Well, we tend to tuck, when life happens, little cheap shots, little something, it's a little burr under the saddle, and, well, I'm not going to say anything about it, and...
but I'm going to remember it.
It simmers, and then there's a trigger, and then it blows. And it's sort of like, I hate to use this analogy, but I think it's a good one. You have the flu, okay? And you say, man, and you throw up, and you feel better because you throw up. But when you explode, and it's anger, and it's venom, you've literally thrown up on your mate. Yeah, you feel better, but what have you done? Okay. And so it's really important that to quote one of my favorite all-time movies, What About Bob? It's all about baby steps for some of us as men, baby steps. It takes a while to understand this gift, this woman.
You outlined 5 things we need to know about feelings. What are those 5?
Well, thanks for the quiz. Number 1, feelings aren't right or wrong. They're just your feelings, okay? And here's what I want people to really understand. When you share feelings, it draws you together. When you go down the judgment trail, now the defenses go up. That's 2 of 5.
So how do you do that? How do you differentiate between sharing your feelings and sharing judgment about the other person's feelings?
With me, this is just for me, I got to sit on it a while. I really do. Because if I just follow my feelings, and there's another one, everybody think about this. Just say we follow our feelings for the next 30 days together. Okay? I got news for you. We're going to be in the county jail together. You can't go through life and follow your feelings. Gentlemen, you see a good-looking chick walking down the street. Get in touch with your feelings. Now follow your feelings. You're going to jail. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. I know they got a little Christian fish on the back. That doesn't count in my book. But what do you feel like doing? You feel like putting them in the ditch. So you can't go through life. God gave us a brain, and I think when we get to problems in marriage, I really believe they're basically spiritual problems. I think so many of us brought so much baggage into marriage, and we try to do this on our own. And what I've learned, and look at me, I'm old. I mean, I've learned to say, Lord, come on, I need some teaching here. And that's where the Holy Spirit, everybody talks about the Holy Spirit led me to do this and led me to do that. The way I see it, the Holy Spirit's a helper. And he helps you to move forward. So I need a little time to sift through that.
No, that's good. One of the, I thought, good tools that you talk about in the book, The Intimate Connection, is the 3-1-1 rule. Gene and I actually mentioned that, and we're going to try to implement that in our communication. What is it?
Real quickly. I mean, you can do it 2 minutes. I call it 3-1-1, but take 3 minutes, and there's an issue, okay? So you're going to face each other, just hold hands, eyeball to eyeball. The rules are one person speaks for 3 minutes. Then the next person gets 60 seconds to sort of clarify what they heard. Then that next person gets a minute to say, well, no, that's not exactly what I meant. It's real simple. and it helps you get the feelings out. I love the example of a balloon. You remember when you blew it and then you took the neck of it and you made that terrible noise to bother your parents or your brother or your sister?
Over and over and over
But there's
again.
a good analogy there that sometimes when that stuff comes out in communication, it's not easy to listen to because your mate's telling you something that you really need to hear. But notice that the balloon goes down, and what's the odds of it bursting into a huge thing? Very little, because you've let some air out. So if that'll help people with that 3-1-1 concept, the point is you need to make time to talk.
Yeah. The other 4, I mean, this is really number 2 of the 5, is communication. Pick it up from there because we didn't get all 5.
So again, reminders, you have a right to express your feelings, okay?
Yep.
And a lot of us were brought up in homes where when we tried to share our feelings, let's face it, we got shot down. Mm-hmm. And then when you ask your mate, why do you feel that way? You heard what I said earlier. I mean, us men hate the why word. So when you say, why do you feel that way, you're just being demeaning to your mate. So saying things like, honey, tell me more about that. I want to understand more about how you feel. And women are so sensitive to the feeling part. Pray audibly together. Be the one to say, honey, let's pray, and grab her hand. And I'm telling you, she'll purr like a kitten. But that's one of the things that you have to understand, that the spiritual and the physical and the emotional all come together.
Kevin, one secret you identify that can lead to a stronger, healthier marriage, so the listeners are leaning in, and that is to understand your spouse's temperament. What's that mean? I think I understand that, but how and why is that important?
Well, we're all wired differently. People come out of the womb differently. There's 4 personality types that have been talked about for years, and that's the melancholic. Now, I'm the guy that wrote the birth order book, and whenever I think about the melancholic, I think of the only children. We're going to do it the right way. And some of you are married to people who know exactly the right way to do things.
I'm a little offended by that. I wasn't an only child, but
She knows the right way.
Afterward, we need to discuss your birth order in your family, because there's something amiss there.
Oh,
that
yes.
you could do what
There's
you've
a
done
lot.
in life and not be the firstborn. That's a baffler to me. But the cholerics are the do it my way. So you got to do it the right way. You got to do it my way. Those guys are psychological first cousins. They're very, very similar.
So choleric in the birth order, where does that usually fall?
The firstborn.
Firstborn as well.
Yeah. And again, all you firstborn children who are listening, you got in trouble for what your younger sister and brother did. I don't care what you did. You're the oldest. I expect more to you. So a lot of leadership comes from the firstborn, okay? And then, of course,
1, 2, 3.
you have the phlegmatics. Now, if there's one thing I'd hate to be called in life, it's a phlegmatic. It sounds like something you'd get in the ocean that would stick to your skin and you couldn't get rid of it. I mean, I never liked that term, but those are those adorable middle children who are the peanut butter and jelly of the sandwich. They're the best part. They mediate. They're peacemakers. They go with the flow. And then, of course, there's the sanguines like Kevin Lehman, and that's do it the fun way. But here's what's interesting in marriage.
I identify with that.
Oh, yeah.
There's only one way, the fun way.
We're sanguines. But you marry the list maker. I always tell people, Sandy and I, we live in a 2-story house. Her story and mine. We do see things so differently.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
and I call her the Martha Luther because she's the great reformer. And it's like I'm the leopard, and she's going to take out her psychological Brillo pad and start working on my spots. And ladies, this man, it's who he is. Your job is to get behind his eyes, see how he sees life. Your job, gentlemen, is to get behind your wife's eyes and to really understand what makes Jean tick. And she's not like any other women. So when you and I are talking about women today or men, keep in mind, all men are not the same. All women are not the same. That's your job that God's given to you, to be the PI, the private investigator into what this woman or man is all about.
No, it's so true.
Well, Dr. Lehman, yesterday you mentioned, and I love that you said this, that marriage is significantly about making us more Christ-like. I mean, that's really a significant part of, it seems, what God's plan was, because it's not natural for us to love our neighbor, our spouse, as ourselves. I mean, to be a servant to our spouse. That's not natural, but it's part of dying to ourselves and becoming more Christ-like, and it eventually becomes a beautiful thing.
Yeah, Ephesians 5, you honor Christ by submitting to one another. And for a lot of us as men, that sort of riles me.
Mic check, one,
I think
2,
I'm the boss
3.
here. You know, we think that equality equals sameness. We're not the same, but we're of equal social value. And I think this is something that women need to understand. Jim wants to please you. Okay? Mm-hmm. Most men want to please their wives. He wants to be a good husband.
And I don't know that.
And most of us
we
don't know how to
that.
get there.
And I don't know that a lot of women know that.
So
or
who's the
believe
helper to make Jim a better husband? You are. And so you learn in your feminine ways how you don't come up to Jim and say,
Mic
listen,
check,
Bubba,
1, 2, 3.
I got a couple of things I got to tell you here.
Right.
You got to come in sort of the back door, okay, and say, Jim, you
Mic
know,
check, 1,
honey, listen, what you
2,
said to Troy,
3.
I don't know if you saw the expression on his face, but I don't think that went down very well, but you're the better judge of that. Okay.
Ooh, that's
Now,
good.
that's how you do
it.
it.
I don't think
man,
I've
that's
ever
a good one.
added that last part.
It's,
Yes.
you know, ask a woman why a man who's lost won't stop and ask for directions. And all women say, oh, it's a macho thing, it's beneath them. No, there's a male reason for it. It is, we don't want all those cars to get by us. We work so hard to pass.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's
So
absolutely true.
just understanding the man's spirit. I mean, we're the provider. We got all that protection in us, and let him be your hero. Don't put a skirt on him, and he's not your girlfriend. You know,
right.
Let's bring it back to the temperaments, because I think it's important that we get a basic understanding that our spouse's temperament can help de-escalate conflict. I mean, it gives you a framework for understanding triggers and other things.
So
right?
let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Which couple would make the best couple in terms of, on top you have the only child melancholy, you got the firstborn choleric, who are again like first cousins, but who do you suppose they're best matched with in marriage?
Lastborns,
Sanguines, the little babies.
because they're complementing each other.
See, if you're both the same as a couple, quite frankly, there's no need for one of you in marriage. Think about it.
Right.
It's the differences that make you a couple. And that's where you complement each other. I mean, I'm telling Mrs. Uppington, she needs me. Because if you and Jean were coming to our house on Saturday, I'm telling you, dinner starts on Thursday with preparation. And the house has to be cleaned by professionals. And the upholstery
And that's
must-
after you clean it.
Yeah. She's the kind that cleans the toilet bowls before the lady who helps her
Clean
comes
them.
to clean
Oh,
them.
I've never experienced that.
But that's just the way it is in our home, and you have to understand that. And so she needs me to help lighten her up.
Right.
I need her to help what? Straighten me up.
And that's good, but I also
Yeah.
realize that some listening may have married within their temperament category, so we're not suggesting they should terminate that marriage. What are they going to do?
But here's the key, and I'm so glad you asked that question, because those firstborns, you know who you are. You know exactly how life ought to be. Your husband's driving, he hangs a simple left-hand turn. It is only you can say, Martha Luther, is, why are you turning here? You got a better plan. And so remember, competition in marriage is not good. Marriage is not a competitive sport. Nobody wins in marriage. And so my advice is have a good role definition in your marriage. Honey, I'll do this and you do that, and we'll come together on these other things. Without that role definition, I think you'll kill each other.
Well, in fact, competition, that does pop up even when you don't assume that you're competitive. Gene,
Right.
you have a story about that, I think, early in our marriage.
I do. That was our first year of marriage.
Well, those are always fun.
Oh
Yes.
my! And Jim and I were working for a company, and we traveled around. And that set me off for the whole day. I'm not kidding. And my body was really covered with long sleeve rash guard and board shorts. And there was only one other woman in the water park who was more covered than me from head to toe. Time in marriage to realize how unfair that is, and that Jim can't read my mind, and that I need to tell him my expectations. Or
You do that a lot better than we used to do
right.
that.
I had to learn that.
One of
And-
my favorite all-time things happened in my life when my wife says, "Honey, do you want to stop for ice cream?" And I said, "No." I kept driving. 2 minutes later, she's crying. I go, "What's wrong with you?" "I want to stop for ice cream." So when a woman says, "Jim, do you want to stop for ice cream?" she's not asking a question.
Hey, yeah, we have covered a lot of ground, but let's think of the takeaways for the listener. What are just 3 or 4 things, Dr. Lehman? You mentioned treat your partner as a gift, loving your partner a daily choice. Those are good ideas.
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks.
Embrace the differences.
Don't let them irritate you.
Well, the things that you're attracted to early in your dating are sometimes the things that really do irritate you later on. But embrace the idea of oneness. Embrace the idea that you really do need each other. Do you realize as a couple you really need each other?
Yes.
That this is a couple, it's not a competitive event.
Yes.
And so working together and not pointing fingers, but saying, "Honey, let's work on this together." And that "I love you" never goes out of style. Neither does basic courtesy in marriage.
Yeah.
And with those important reminders, we're concluding this best of 2020 episode of Focus on the Family.
John, I want to remind our viewers that Focus on the Family is here to help. If you have those walls up in your marriage that Kevin has been talking about, we have counselors. We have Hope Restored. Our donors make it possible for us to be available to you. So please take advantage and get in touch with us. If you're struggling to feel that heart connection with your spouse, I want to highly recommend you get a copy of Kevin's book, The Intimate Connection. It would be an excellent gift for any married couple in your life. If you can partner with us during this critical time of year and give a gift of any amount, I'll send you a copy of The Intimate Connection as our way of saying thank you.
Yeah, we're viewer supported, and we so appreciate your gift. You can also set up an appointment with one of our caring Christian counselors and find out more about Hope Restored when you get in touch. Donate and request Kevin's book when you call 800-A-FAMILY or click the link on your screen. And on behalf of Jim Daly and the entire team, thanks for joining us for this best of episode of Focus on the Family. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back next time as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.
Let me ask you this. What's the best-selling single model tire being sold in the United States today?